My dear friends, let me tell you about my journey after turning 70. My name is Joe, but everyone in the neighborhood knows me as Old Joe. The other day, I was flipping through my photo album. You know those old ones, with the hard cover and those pages where you have to lift a plastic sheet to place the photos. I found a picture from 1990, me running the New Year's Eve race. Anyone who sees me today wouldn't believe it. Back then, I was known as Running Joe here in the neighborhood. Every single day at 5 in the morning, there I was in my sneakers and shorts doing my circuit. I knew every pothole, every tree, every park bench in the neighborhood. People even used me as an alarm clock. If Old Joe has already run by, it's time to get up for work. But you know how it is. Time passes, and our body starts sending us some signals. First, it was the knee pain. At the beginning, I thought, oh, this is just the rain coming. Then I started feeling short of breath, which I didn't have before. The last straw was when I almost fell on the uneven sidewalk in front of Mr. Johnson's grocery store. That's when my daughter, Sarah, she's a teacher, always very concerned about her dad, made an appointment with Dr. Smith. I remember it like it was yesterday. I arrived at the office all defensive, thinking he was going to forbid me from exercising. But Dr. Smith, a very attentive young man, young to me, that is, he must be in his 50s, surprised me. "Mr. Joe," he said, "you don't need to stop moving. You need to adapt your movements to your new phase of life." The changes I felt in my body. Oh, my friends, how interesting our body is as a machine. I remember my father always saying, "Joe, take good care of this carcass, it's the only one you've got." At the time, I laughed. Today, I understand perfectly what he meant. Let me tell you something funny that happened last month. I was in line at the bank, because retirees love going to the bank, right? Laughs. When I ran into Tony, my colleague from my factory days. Wow, it had been about 15 years since we'd seen each other. He looked at me and said, "Gosh, Joe, you look different." And I replied, "Of course, Tony, time has passed for everyone." And boy, has it passed. These days, I need to wake up twice during the night to go to the bathroom, something that never happened before. My eyesight isn't what it used to be either. The other day I was trying to read the label on a medicine bottle, and my granddaughter Emily said, "Grandpa, let me read it for you." She even gave me one of those magnifying glasses with a light as a gift, a real beauty. Dr. Smith explained to me that all these changes are normal. The cartilage wears down, that's why there's that crack in my knee when I get up from a chair. The immune system, that fancy name he uses to talk about our defenses, also gets weaker. So much so that now, when my great-granddaughter Lily comes to visit with a little cold, I know, 3 days later, I'm sneezing too. Why I still love my little walks. But it's not all limitations, you know. I learned to adapt my routine and discovered that I can still stay active, just in a different way. Now I take shorter walks, but with much more quality. Every day at 7 o'clock in the morning, after the sun has risen but before it gets too strong, I put on my special sneakers, those with extra cushioning that my children gave me, and I go for my walk around the block. On the way, I meet Mrs. Wilson from number 42, who also takes her daily walk. She lost her husband 2 years ago and tells me that this exercise routine saved her from depression. There's also Mr. Brown from the bakery, who always keeps a warm loaf of bread for when I pass by. "Mr. Joe," he says, "you're my alarm clock. When you pass by here, I know it's time to take out the first batch." The walk has become more than exercise. It's my time for socializing. I know all the residents in the neighborhood, all the little dogs. I always carry some treats in my pocket, all the plants in the gardens. The other day, I even helped Mrs. Davis choose which flowers to plant on her sidewalk. The best part is that I continue to feel the benefits. My blood pressure is more controlled, I sleep better, and that constipation that used to bother me has improved a lot. Not to mention that I've maintained my independence. I go to the market alone, to the pharmacy, visit my friends. Other activities I discovered. You know what's most interesting? When I had to cut back on walking, I ended up discovering a whole new world of activities that I never imagined I would enjoy. Let me tell you how it happened. It all started when my daughter Sarah noticed that I was a bit down because I couldn't take long walks like before. One Sunday she came to my house with a surprise, a gardening kit. At first I turned up my nose. That's women's stuff, I thought. But you know what? I fell in love with it. I started with some herb seedlings, basil, mint, those basic things. Then I started to venture out. Today, I have a vegetable garden that's the pride of the family. I grow cherry tomatoes, my great-granddaughter's favorite, lettuce, arugula, and even strawberries. Every Sunday, when the family comes for lunch, I make sure to show off the new additions to the garden. My son-in-law jokes that I've become an urban farmer. But it didn't stop there. Mrs. Thompson, my neighbor who gives painting classes at home, invited me to join her classes. At first, I was embarrassed. Imagine me with these calloused hands from years of working in carpentry, holding a paintbrush. But you know what? I discovered a talent. I've already painted 3 canvases, and one of them is hanging in my daughter's living room. Reading has also become a great companion. Every afternoon after lunch, I sit in my armchair, a gift from my children last Christmas, and read for at least an hour. I started with the local newspaper, then moved on to magazines, and now I'm even reading novels. My granddaughter Emily gave me one of those modern devices. What's it called again? Oh yes, Kindle, where you can increase the font size. It's wonderful. And there's more. Every Wednesday afternoon I participate in a volunteer group at the neighborhood church. We help organize donations, sort out food baskets, and sometimes we even visit elderly people who can't leave their homes. You know, it's done me a world of good. As Sister Mary says, Mr. Joe, you help others, but you're the one who benefits the most. During the pandemic, that was a tough time, you know. My grandson Kevin taught me how to use the computer. At first, it was just for video calls with the family, but now I even participate in an online chess group. I play with people from all over the world. Just the other day, I played with a gentleman from Japan. Technology is an impressive thing. I also started doing crossword puzzles every day. Sarah says it's great for keeping the mind active. At first I made a lot of mistakes, but now I'm an expert. I even bought a special notebook just for this. When my grandchildren come to visit, they always ask for help solving the most difficult words. How I learned to walk more carefully. Let me tell you something that changed my life. Physical therapy with Dr. Rebecca. It was after that near fall on the sidewalk by the grocery store that my daughter insisted I start treatment. At first, I thought it was overkill, but now I'm grateful every day for the lessons. Dr. Rebecca taught me everything about correct posture. Mr. Joe, she would say, imagine there's a string pulling you up from the top of your head. I also learned to pay attention to my breathing while walking, something I had never done before, and most importantly, she taught me how to choose the right footwear. I remember I arrived there with my old sneakers all worn out on the sole. She looked at them and said, Mr. Joe, these sneakers retired a long time ago. I ended up getting new sneakers for Christmas. My children pitched in and bought a special pair for walking, with cushioning and everything. What a difference. My grandson also gave me a modern watch that counts steps. At first I thought it was silly, but now I never leave home without it. I always keep it below 7,000 steps a day, as the doctor recommended. And there's more. The watch even measures my heart rate and even reminds me when it's time to drink water. Changes in my diet. This part was difficult at first. I, who had always been fond of pork rinds, feijoada, and weekend barbecues, had to learn a new way of eating. The nutritionist, Dr. Lisa, was very patient with me. Mr. Joe, she explained, our body is like a car. Over time, it needs a different fuel. And you know what? She was right. I started paying attention to how I felt after eating certain foods. That drowsiness after lunch, it was because of too much fat. Today, my plate is colorful. It always has vegetables, legumes, and lean protein. I learned to like fish. Who would have thought? And I discovered that fresh herbs from my garden give food a special flavor. Of course, I still eat my pork rinds once in a while. After all, Dr. Lisa said that balance is what's important. My daughter helped me organize my meals. Now I have 6 smaller meals a day instead of 3 big ones. And you know what? It even improved my digestion. That heartburn that used to bother me so much has practically disappeared. Exercises to maintain strength. One of the best discoveries I made was the stretching class at the neighborhood community center. At first, I confess I was a bit skeptical. It was practically all women in the class. But then I saw Mr. Albert, my 82-year-old neighbor, participating. The instructor, Rose, adapts the exercises for each person. Some days we do yoga. Imagine me all stiff trying to do those positions. Other days it's exercises with elastic bands or small balls. The best part is that we do everything sitting or supported, so it's super safe. After I started, my back pain improved a lot. And there's more. My leg strength increased, which makes me feel more secure when climbing up and down stairs. Even my granddaughter commented the other day, "Grandpa, you look taller." It's your posture that's improved. I'll continue with the next chapters. How I avoid falls. This topic is very serious, you know. After Mrs. Jenkins, my friend from the church group, fell and broke her femur, I became much more cautious. Her recovery was long and difficult, so I decided to make all the necessary adaptations at home. First, I removed all the rugs, even that beautiful one I had received from my late wife. Better safe than sorry, as she always used to say. Then my children installed support bars in strategic places, bathroom, hallway, near the bed. I changed all the light bulbs to brighter ones and installed night lights in the hallway, those that stay on all night. I also put non-slip mats in the shower and bought a special bench for bathing. In the backyard, I fixed all the irregularities in the pavement. My son-in-law, who's a contractor, helped me with this. Now I have a safe path from the door to the gate, all marked with reflective tape that my granddaughter stuck. She thinks of everything. The importance of sleep. Getting good sleep has become an art for me. In the past, I used to sleep like a log. I'd put my head on the pillow and only wake up with the sun hitting the window. Nowadays, things have changed, but I've learned some tricks that I want to share with you. The first thing I discovered: routine is everything. Every night at 9 o'clock sharp, I start my preparation for bed. I drink my chamomile tea from the plants I grow myself, put on my warm pajamas and say a little prayer, a habit I inherited from my mother. Dr. Amanda, the sleep specialist I consulted, taught me several interesting things. For example, no watching the news before bed. "Mr. Joe," she said, "bad news at night only serves to keep you awake. Now, if you want to see me angry, just try calling me after 8 at night, unless it's an emergency, of course." I had to make some adjustments to my bedroom too. I bought thicker curtains, a Father's Day gift from my grandchildren. Replaced the mattress with an orthopedic one, an investment worth every penny, and always maintain a pleasant temperature. In the summer, I use a small fan, one of those really quiet ones that my daughter brought. Water, my best friend. This hydration story is something I learned the hard way. Last year, I had quite a scare. It was a hot January day. I was tending to my garden and suddenly started feeling very dizzy. The result? Dehydration. I spent a whole day in the emergency room on an IV drip. After that, my granddaughter Emily, that girl is an angel, gave me a special water bottle, all colorful with time markings. She wrote, "Grandpa, each of these lines means it's time to drink water." She also installed an app on my cell phone that reminds me to drink water every 2 hours. Now I have my tricks. I keep a jug of water with lemon slices in the fridge. It's delicious. I always take my water bottle when I leave the house, and I've learned to drink a glass of water as soon as I wake up. The nurse at the health clinic said it even helps with that constipation that used to bother me so much. My doctor visits. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that a doctor is like a friend. The more you visit, the better the relationship gets. I organize everything in a planner my daughter gave me. Each doctor has their color, my granddaughter's idea. Cardiologist is red, orthopedist is green, and so on. Every month I have at least one appointment. Dr. Carter, my cardiologist for 15 years, has practically become family. He knows my whole history, my fears and joys. At the last appointment, he even showed me pictures of his grandchildren. I keep all my exams organized in a folder, one of those with dividers, you know. My blood pressure is recorded every day in a special notebook, along with the medications I take. This makes it much easier when I need to show the doctors. The importance of friends and family. This is the most special part of my life. Every Sunday is family lunch day at my house. I insist on cooking, that grandma's pasta sauce that everyone loves. The house gets full, noisy with children's laughter everywhere. It's my happiest moment of the week. During the week, I have my domino group. We meet every Wednesday at the community center. Mr. Albert, Mr. John, and Mr. Anthony have been my game partners for over 10 years. We play, tell stories, laugh at our own jokes, even if we've heard them 1,000 times. I also participate in a WhatsApp group for the neighborhood retirees. At first I thought it was silly, but now I love it. We share recipes, photos of grandchildren, arrange meetups. I even learned how to send stickers. My grandson could hardly believe it when I sent him a funny sticker. And you know what I discovered? The older we get, the more important it is to maintain these connections. Every conversation, every hug, every shared moment is a treasure. As Mrs. Mary from the church group says, life is like coffee, better when shared with friends. So, my dears, this is my story and my experiences. I've learned that aging isn't bad. It's just different. Each phase of life has its beauty, its challenges, and its joys. The secret is to accept changes with wisdom and always keep your heart open to learn new things. As I say to my grandchildren, life is like riding a bicycle. Sometimes we need to pedal slower, but the important thing is to keep moving. Technology, in the golden years, my digital adventure. Who would have thought that I, old Joe, at 78 years old, would be here messing with all this technology? It started when my grandson Kevin insisted I get a smartphone as they call it. At first, I confess I was even afraid to touch the screen. But you know what? Now I can't live without it. I learned to use WhatsApp to talk to the family. I make video calls with my sister who lives in Miami, and I even pay bills through the bank app. Gone are the days of spending hours in the bank queue. Mrs. Peterson, my 82-year-old neighbor, used to tell me that technology was a young person's thing. The other day, she saw me doing online grocery shopping. Now she wants to learn too. We even organized a little technology class group at the community center. Every Saturday morning, the young people from the neighborhood come to teach us all these modern things. My granddaughter taught me how to use GPS on my phone. I never get lost going to medical appointments in different neighborhoods anymore. And there's more. I learned to search for recipes on the internet, watch gardening videos on YouTube, and I even participate in a senior citizens group on Facebook. Managing finances in retirement. One thing people don't talk about much is how to handle money after retirement. At first it was a shock. Income decreases, but expenses continue. Sometimes they even increase with medications. I created a well-organized system with the help of my daughter Sarah. I have a notebook, one of those old-fashioned paper ones, where I write down everything I spend, from coffee at the diner to the most expensive medications. At the end of the month, I sit down with her and we review everything. I learn to compare drug prices at different pharmacies. Sometimes the difference is significant. I also discovered discount programs that pharmacies offer for retirees. Mrs. Thompson at the pharmacy always lets me know when there's a promotion on the medications I regularly use. I do my grocery shopping on Tuesday mornings, which is when prices are better in our neighborhood. And I'm very proud to say that my little vegetable garden helps save money on vegetables and herbs. As my son-in-law says, "Father-in-law, you've become a financial consultant for senior citizens." The art of being a grandfather and great-grandfather. This is the sweetest part of life. I have 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, and each of them teaches me something new every day. Little Lily, my 4-year-old great-granddaughter, taught me how to use her tablet to play that Angry Bird game. What's it called again? Oh yes, Angry Birds. I've created a tradition here at home. Every Thursday afternoon is story time. The little ones come after school and I tell them stories about my childhood, about how life was back then. They're fascinated when I tell them that we didn't have color TV, that we used to play on the street until late, that letters took weeks to arrive. With my older grandchildren, I've learned to be a better listener. Emily, my 23-year-old granddaughter, always comes to me for advice about work and life. The other day she told me, "Grandpa, you're more modern than many young people out there." I felt so proud. And you know what's most interesting? Each one has their special way of showing affection. Kevin always fixes my phone when there's a problem. Madison brings cakes she bakes herself. Lucas takes me for car rides on weekends. As for the great-grandchildren, they're pure love. Those tight little hugs cure any sadness. I've learned that being a grandfather and great-grandfather is an art that's perfected over time. It's knowing when to give advice and when to just listen. Say it's having the patience to explain the same story 3 times because the children ask. It's being firm when necessary, but also knowing that a secret little treat now and then doesn't hurt anyone. As I always say, at my age, the wrinkles on my face are just a map of the smiles life has given me. And a big part of those smiles came from this wonderful experience of seeing my family grow and being able to actively participate in each of their lives.